Uh, I love the idea of just finding synergies or creating those synergies. Karabo, over to you. Would love just to hear your take on this idea of engaging or creating a separate systems or way of working things, and then just finding those areas of synergy. Yeah, would love to hear your take on that.
Thanks, Philip. I mean, I think fundamentally, always as Christians, our goal is a simple one, and it's your kingdom come, and it is to bring God's kingdom into the world around us and to make it real and live and tangible for His people. And I think to that extent, we have a very clear blueprint, philosophical blueprint. To work with, and I think as Christians we need to be incredibly bold and brave and honest and in pursuing that at all times with all the means that we have. And I think as South African Christians in particular, I think we have the benefit of having lived through something in this last generation that should help us do better in this generation. We lived in a country that was fundamentally beholden to a racist, oppressive system called apartheid for an incredibly long time. And as a church, for much of that history, we allowed ourselves to become complicit in that evil, either through an actual perversion of biblical principles, as was the case with certain parts of the Christian church. But even much more common than that was through our silence and through our and that was a certain kind of complicity. I had the great privilege for a period of working with African Enterprise and even being the CEO of African Enterprise for a while and getting to spend a lot of time with Michael Cassidy, one of the giants of our faith, and a man who in the later part of the apartheid regime was part of a movement of Christians who came alive to their responsibility to be champions for change when it was difficult, when it was dangerous, when it required courage, when it was inconvenient, but they did so. And I think right now, this moment, we are living through a similar but different set of circumstances. It is certainly my clear, unapologetic view that income inequality, global income inequality, is the apartheid of our times, and that it is fundamentally ungodly, and that it is beholden on us to be at the vanguard of change, because we live in a system currently that produces oppression in the economic sphere, and I think we need to not repeat the mistakes of the past. We need not. We cannot allow ourselves to be silent. We cannot allow ourselves to do our work at the margins. We need to be bold in declaring the injustice of the economic system that we currently find ourselves operating in, and to ask God for the strength, the courage, and the vision to overturn it, lest we should be complicit. I certainly I don't think we can afford to do that. I think we will regret it to our graves should we do so. And I think there's an opportunity for us now to think new thoughts, to think fresh thoughts, to think bold thoughts, and to be bold with our speech and with our action to overturn what is fundamentally an ungodly system.
Karabo, I'm going to stay with you, and then I'll go to John just for the last question. We have less than 5 minutes left. Can you give us examples? Give us some hope. Do you have any specific examples where you are currently involved in, or anything that you know about where we are actually seeing how this is happening? You referred to the silence of the church in apartheid. The great opportunity that there is now in terms of something like inequality, how we can be the solution to that. Give us some hope, encourage us by telling us some of the good stories and things that you are seeing or involved in yourself.
100%. And I think there's a great I think there's a great deal of hope to be had in a movement of that God is raising up around the world. People like us on this call, people well beyond this call, who are committed to finding more equitable, just ways to build value, to do commerce for the greater good. And I think the social entrepreneurship model and models, because there is no single model, models that are being experimented with all around the world give me all the courage and the encouragement in the world. And at the core of those models that I see in Israel and in China and in Pakistan and Muhammad Yunus and all over the world is a fundamental recognition that we need to build towards an economic and a business model that is at its core built around shared prosperity. I often say that right now we're seeing so many businesses, having shared sacrifice. People's hours are being cut, people's wages are being cut, people are being put on short time, people are being retrenched, and we're all being asked to kind of rally together in our businesses to survive this moment. But the key thing is that when the times are good, and the good times will return, that we have that equal mindset that says when the good times come and the prosperity is there, we need to share that prosperity. And there's so many businesses out there, businesses that I'm involved in the mining space. I'm involved in a business that is currently trying to purchase a mine, and that mine will be 75% owned by a trust for orphaned and vulnerable children. I have no particular interest in mining, but I have an interest in orphaned and vulnerable children. And I have an interest in doing things at scale that can demonstrate that these things are possible. And I just want to finish with that one thought. These things are possible, because it's so easy in this thought space that we're in about systemic change to default to pragmatism and to default to, well, that's a nice thought, but it can't be done in the real world. Well, I tell you, if there's one thing that I take out of COVID, is that I will never again in my life allow anyone to tell me that a thing can't be done. Because in this last 6 months, with our very own eyes, we saw things that would never, ever, ever have appeared possible if someone had said them to us 8 months ago. The entire world economy was brought to a crushing halt, absolute standstill, in a way that is absolutely incomprehensible. But because the will, the desire, the intent was there, we were able to do those things. We are doing those things. And so the system change that we want, it's possible, to the extent that we desire it, that we have the intent for it, that we have the courage for it, that we have the faith for it, that we have the conviction for it. And I think it's incumbent on us, this generation, the people on this call, to be bold and courageous in what we do going forward.